Hello. Um, I'm Josh. I'm starting this little channel or whatever, just cause I'm bored during this, whole quarantine situation. That's not really quarantine in the States, and I live in Houston, so it's more of like a lockdown type situation where they kind of advise social distancing and making sure that you're not in a crowd of 10 people and all that jazz. But basically, that means I'm stuck in the house. So I'm pretty much just gonna use this as an outlet to talk about whatever I want, when I want. It'll range from like music to soccer. It'll probably be quite a bit of soccer because I love soccer. That's my team. Man United. If you can see that little jersey right there, that's my team. I love them. I love them with my life. They hurt my feelings every week, and it's such a shame. They hurt me, but it's okay. It's fine. We don't really talk about it. Soccer suspended till April 30th, and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Honestly, I've been watching old Man United like film online. I've just been finding old matches to watch just because I've been that bored. Also, excuse the lack of a proper haircut. I can't find a good barber that's open because of this stupid like situation, and I look like a mess. But oh well, we won't really delve too deeply into that. But yeah, into Man United. So yeah, that's my team, and I feel like today I want to talk about like the financial implications that like Corona is gonna have on soccer as a whole. Because one, as a Man United fan, Liverpool, I hope they don't win the league. So for me, though I do want to watch soccer, I'll take the league getting suspended or getting canceled for this season just so that Liverpool don't win the league. Now, the implications of that, because Man United were in the Europa League, I think we were in the FA Cup, right? And we were still in the league hunting for the fourth spot, and we were on a pretty good run. But if they scrap the league and say restart, then we have to do this all over again, and it's gonna affect a lot of stuff. Because I know the Adidas deal that we signed with Adidas might fall into question. We might get less revenue from them because I think part of the contractual stipulations are that we have to qualify for Champions League, and then it'll have an increase. And also that Champions League money, like just from being in the Champions League, is quite a lot, and attracting the type of players that we want to attract, because we've been having a really bad run of signings up until late, in terms of like Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer's new signings have been relatively well. They've done pretty well. Harry Maguire, it took him a little bit of time to get settled, I think, and that 80 million price tag doesn't really seem to justify him. I think it was weighing on his shoulders a little bit too much at the start of the season, but he's gradually, come into his own, and he's not like amazing, but he gets the job done. Aaron Wan-Bissaka's a beast. I don't want to hear anything. He's the best right back in the league. I bar none, bar nobody. I don't want to hear, oh, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, look at his assists, yada yada yada. No, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is the best right back in the league right now. His defensive stats are amazing. If you look throughout the season and watch him, he's not as bad as people like to say he is going forward. It's just Man United don't necessarily have the forward line capable of maximizing his attacking potential. That's two. And three, I think he tends to have to run the right side of the pitch by himself, both attacking and defending. And that's mostly because we don't really have a right winger. We haven't had a right winger in I don't know, years, I think. And hopefully with the acquisition of Jadon Sancho, which I do really think is going to come through, I think he will sign for Man United. I don't know how it would work if we don't get Champions League and it's scrapped, which goes back to the implications of us not of them canceling the league, if that makes sense. So, but I do still think that we are in the running. I think we will pay the money, and I think we're the only people who are capable of paying the money, especially with this whole how this virus is affecting clubs throughout the league in terms of like spending power. I think the big clubs will survive, but Man United have this like, because we're so self-generating in terms of revenue, because we have such a large fan base. I think it'll be really easy for us to just be like, all right, whatever, we'll splash 120 million on Jadon Sancho. We'll pay his 2,000 pounds a week wage. I think that's what he wants right now, and they'll just do it for the shits and giggles. Like, nobody cares. But yeah, going back to AWB. So yeah, he's amazing. Who else would be fine? Sign. Dan James. I think he hasn't done as bad as people like to say he's done. He's definitely had a dip in form, mostly because we've overplayed him. I think this is said a lot, honestly, by a lot of Man United fans, but he wasn't bought to be played as often as he has been. And it's been through injury that we've had to play him as often as we do. But still, I think it's been poor planning on the Glazers side and Ed Woodward's side, still not bringing in a right winger or a suitable option for that position. But he hasn't done too bad. But Bruno Fernandes, on the other hand, Jesus Christ, that man's a monster. That man is a monster. I wanted him during the summer, and I really do think we should have gotten him during the summer, and then we're playing games with him during the summer. But I'm glad that we bought him now, because if we did not buy him, Ollie would be out of a job. That's number one, and number two, we'd be like free falling down the table. So that would have ruined our transfer potential for like all of next season. So Jadon Sancho would most likely have fallen through because we have no option of making Champions League. We were really missing that creative spark in the midfield, and he has brought it beautifully. And now, if the problem then becomes when Pogba comes back, if he comes back, we don't know. I love him. I love him to death. I think he's an extremely talented midfielder. But if he decides that he doesn't want to play for us anymore, or if he decides that he does want to play for us, fitting him into that midfield might be a bit of an issue, because he can't play with Matic, because Matic is too slow, and Pogba he's not a ball-winning midfielder like Fred is or McTominay is. So if you're playing Pogba along with Matic, that's not going to be a good midfield combination, because Pogba, though he can stick a tackle, you don't really want him to be paying attention to the tackles. And Matic is really a general type in the midfield. He doesn't really want to slide into tackles. He wants to sort of screen the back line, take the ball out, pass, and then allow the other midfielders to facilitate that movement around him. So I don't want to say Fred, because I don't think Fred is good in that deep lying midfield role, that center defensive midfield role that I think we need. I don't think he is capable of doing that by himself. Like, I think he's really good in a two with McTominay or whatever, or Matic, but I don't know where Pogba fits into that. Now, I think, honestly, the best way to do it would be to make it Pogba, Bruno, and McTominay, and play that I think it's the 4-2-3-1 that Ollie likes to play, but allow for Pogba to basically play, I don't know how to explain this because I'm doing this on my iPhone or whatever. So if later on, when I'm trying to be more tactical, I'll put like, what's the word? I'll put like a screen up here and show you, but because it's my first video, I'm not going to do that. So Bruno kind of plays up top like this, like up here, and then Pogba kind of plays in this position because he likes to drift to the left whenever he's playing, and Bruno can pretty much go wherever he wants. So, and then McTominay plays like this. So it's kind of like it's a 3, but it's not like 2 8s that Leicester play, because Leicester kind of play like this with their holding midfielder down here, and then their 2 8s, which is Maddison and Tielemans. And Tielemans can facilitate the passing going up and down, and they use Maddison to sort of link their midfield and their attack. But they both pretty much do the same thing, because Maddison will drop, receive the ball, take it, and go and do whatever he needs to do. So we kind of need players like that to come into Man United. But like I was saying before, fitting Pogba into this team is actually a lot more difficult than it looks. And I don't necessarily I think he has the talent. Like he undeniably he has the talent, but does he have the place is the question. Because one, the midfield has been doing relatively well without him. And it looks like Bruno can do something that Paul hasn't been able to do, which is run the show by himself, right? Paul hasn't proven that he can run a midfield by himself. Even back in the Juve days, I don't think he's ever shown that he's capable of just running a straight midfield. Bruno has said, all right, y'all need me. I'm going to come in. I'm going to take over this midfield. And I'm going to do what y'all haven't been able to do for the longest. Fred is coming to form, and he's been beautiful. He's been outstanding. Oh, that man has been outstanding this season. I don't want to hear any slander. Pastor Fred, I don't want to hear any slander from that man. He's been fantastic. McTominay's been decent. He's been not decent. He's been good. I'm not going to gas him. He's been great. He's been fantastic, actually. Especially coming back from injury as quickly as he did, and slotting back in and scoring goals like he's been doing. I think he's been well, but putting Pogba into this team, it's a lot more complicated than people might think. I've seen a lot of fans saying, "Oh, Pogba walks right into this team," yada yada yada. But it's kind of more difficult than it looks. I think Pogba can play in the base of the midfield too, but I don't like him there because though he can pick out a pass, I want him a little bit further forward, because that allows him to facilitate goals like he wants to. Like Pogba wants to score goals as well, and it looks a little bit more difficult if he's playing in that holding role. But I don't think Pogba's a 10 either. A lot of people tend to think that Pogba's a 10, and I don't think he is. I don't think he works best in that role because he doesn't really roam as much as Bruno does, if that makes sense. Like Bruno, if you watch him, Bruno likes to roam into space, and wherever space is, he'll come in, take the ball, and do something with it. Pogba likes to stay in that central midfield role and then beat a man and then pick a pass, right? He doesn't drift into space like Bruno likes to do. I mean, Jesse Lingard's a good example of this. Jesse Lingard also is fantastic about running into space. But the thing about Jesse is he doesn't have the technical quality that Bruno does in terms of just lifting your head up, picking a one-time pass, and paying it, right? That's what Bruno does exceptionally well. Bruno always knows what's going on around him. He always knows the field, the layout of the field, and that's something that Jesse can't do. But Pogba now, he wants to take a man on. He likes to use his body a lot in terms of rolling a person and then just looking up, picking a sweet, beautiful pass, and then going and doing whatever he wants. So I don't think Pogba necessarily works best in the 10 position. I don't think that's his best position. I do think he's more of a roaming a box-to-box midfielder. But then you can't really have two box-to-box midfielders playing in a holding role. So Fred, McTominay, and Pogba really are all box to box, and I think the only person outside of Matic who is capable of playing that DM role is McTominay. And I would say Matic, but Matic can't play the lone midfield role. He can't play it by himself anymore. His legs are gone, and I think it would be easier to have Scott play with Pogba and Bruno. And if he gets injured, maybe Fred. But I don't want to take Fred out the team because Fred has been performing beautifully. And that would be such a disservice to him that Pogba comes back and Fred goes in. Fred goes out. Because he's been playing fantastically well these past few seasons. While when Pogba really got injured, Fred was the one who stepped up and came in and started doing all sorts of nonsense in midfield. I remember, I think during the City game, I think he nutmegged the man, came back, nutmegged him. Oh, beautiful. He's such a talented midfielder. I love it. But yeah, we've been doing all right. But it's quite the conundrum that Ollie has, and if we also bring in Jack Grealish, which I want to say 80% sure is going to happen. Jack Grealish will probably be a Man United player by the end of next season, by the start of next season. More than likely, I think, more than likely. But if we bring him in, again, what happens? Because Grealish can play in, I think, 3 positions. He can play as a 10. He can play, maybe 4. He can play as like a second striker. He can play on the left wing, and he can also, his favorite position is to play as an 8, as a roaming 8. Now, I think we only get Grealish if Pogba goes, right? Because it makes no sense to get him otherwise, because he's too high profile of a player, and we're going to pay too much for him to just sit on the bench. So I think Grealish will only really come if Pogba goes. And I'm relatively sure Pogba's going to leave, regardless of the fact. So I do think that we will get Jack Grealish, and Jack Grealish will partner better with Bruno Fernandes, I think. But the thing is, we also need to get a good defensive midfielder. And the person we need to get is definitely Thomas Partey. That's it. He's peak, bro. He is so peak. That man is so good at football. Like, he's disgustingly good at football. If you watch him during the Liverpool game, that man is... It's not fair how good he is at football. I know Arsenal are linked pretty heavily to him right now, but I think if Man United really came in and said, yo, we want you, come here, instead of Arsenal, he'll pick us over Arsenal in a heartbeat. Because one, we have more ambition than Arsenal. We're doing a lot better than Arsenal, and we look like we actually have a cohesive plan more than Arsenal. And if we just say, hey, bro, we'll pay you, 120 or 150K a week, you can come. And they'll be like, okay, I think Partey would gladly jump at that offer. So if we got like a Partey and a Grealish and then a Sancho, that's a pretty good window for me. But then I think another thing is signing a Gallo. Because right now I think a Gallo is perfect for what we need right now, which is somebody who can come in, wears the shirt on his sleeve, and then comes in and plays football when we need him, scores goals when we need him to, but doesn't interrupt the growth of Anthony Martial, who is starting to actually make that number 9 position his own, which is, I think, good tactical analysis from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'm really proud of him for that, because he's done a lot in terms of improving our attacking talent. Marcus Rashford has been fantastic before he got injured, and Martial was starting to link up with Rashford really well. And even in Rashford's absence, he scored some really important goals. That goal against Watford, excelente, beautiful, very beautiful. I'm proud of him. He's done well from the Mourinho days when he always looked like a sulking mess. Now he's scoring goals for fun, and it's great. But I don't know if we really want to go out, because I know the name that's really been linked to us is Moussa Dembele from Lyon, and I don't really like him as an option. Like, I think I don't know. I don't really like him as an option because, one, that limits Martial's growth, and I don't think he's the best option for us. I think it's better we go with an older striker. Like, we've just been recently linked with Aubameyang, and I think that's kind of a better choice because, one, Abba can play on the left as well, right? So we can always either, because I think we prefer all of our strikers to be able to play multiple positions, because it makes it easier it screws up defenders a lot more. Because you'll see Martial move to the left, Rashford move to the center, James move to wherever he wants to move or whatever. And I think having a clinical striker like Abba come in, and he can also play on the left, Martial can play up front, Rashford can play on the right, and they just interchange like that, and it will make life so sweet. But I don't think, again, Abba's a good option because Abba's not going to be okay just sitting on the bench. And if we have Jadon Sancho, if we have Marcus Rashford, and we have Tony Martial, somebody's going to have to get benched, and Abba is not going to want to get benched. So I think our best option, I don't want to say, like, I love Gallo, but I can't, he's kind of unpredictable. I don't know if this is like just him being amazing because he wants to play for Man United so much. I don't know if that's going to wear off next season. So I'm a little hesitant to sign him on a permanent, whether it be a 1-year contract or whatever. I'm a tad bit hesitant, but I think that might be our best option. Or bringing in another, I don't want to say aging striker, but it's best to bring in somebody older rather than younger. Moussa Dembele, I think, is 22, 23. And I think that's a little too young because then it's competition for Martial, but it's not necessarily the competition that we like because it's two people fighting for places and one of them is going to end up unhappy. So I think it'd be better if we got a striker, maybe like Immobile, or who else is out there, really? I think we need a good, strong physical presence that can play up top and just score goals when we need them, when we need them to, which Gallo's kind of perfect at, really, right now. But I mean, I'll get back to you on that probably next video. But yeah, I think it's hard to see who we can suitably bring in and fix our issues in terms of like striking options. Now, I think honestly the positions that need to be fixed right now, we need to get Jadon Sancho. That's a fact. We need to go get Thomas Partey. I know we're not really linked to that fourth defensive midfield. Oh, there's a dude from I think, is it Mönchengladbach as well that we've been linked to that I like a lot. I like that man a lot. Boubacar Soumaré from Lille, I think, is where he plays as well. That kid is pretty dope as well. But I think we need to make that DM role a priority. I think it's more of a secondary transfer target right now. If we get all three of our targets, then we can go for the fourth. But I think it needs to be an 8. Grealish. It needs to be Sancho. I think Man United is prioritizing a striker, but I don't know the way that's gonna go. I really don't. But I think they're gonna prioritize a striker, and then we're gonna go for that DM role. That's really important. Like I've heard a lot of rumors that we're gonna get Koulibaly from Napoli, and I doubt that. I highly doubt that. I don't think that's a real possibility at this time, but maybe. I don't think we really need him right now. I think if we went, maybe he would really make our defense like amazing if he came in, but I don't think it's a high enough priority to spend that money in this transfer window. I really don't. But it's difficult, man. It's difficult. Yeah, so I mean, I think this is pretty much gonna be it for this first video because it's like 23 minutes long and it's a little too long. I'm gonna edit this down. Definitely, I'm gonna probably edit this down to make 15 minutes, maybe max. But I mean, thank you for listening. I guess whoever's listening to this, whoever's gonna hear this, I hope it gets fun. I hope it was an enjoyable time for you. And we'll go from there. We'll enjoy ourselves a little bit more in the next time. All right, peace.